Hey friends, welcome back to my channel. It's Tori, and today we are...
Oh, hi. It's Ben. Welcome to the channel. Today I decided to take some time out of a very busy schedule to talk about the top reads of 2024 that I had last year. Tori read 100 books over the course of 2024. I did not read 100 books. I read 41. And while I can say that most of them were worthwhile reads, there were definitely a couple gems in there that I wanted to put in a good word for. First up is the manga Spy Family Volume 6. For anyone who doesn't know, Spy Family basically follows a master spy, Lloyd Forger. He has had to create a fake family for the purposes of infiltrating certain political circles. His wife is actually a master assassin, and his daughter is a telepath. And so there's a lot of humor through the series as each of these characters is invested in concealing their own identity from each other. While at the same time, there's a lot of heartfelt moments that I really appreciated. Being a dad in a young family myself, while the Forgers and their fake family have to deal with a lot of real family situations all the time. This dad is a master spy, right? But he has plenty of moments where he sits down with his daughter and has to figure out, okay, how do I do this like a dad would do this? And that type of consideration in a book with over-the-top action scenes is something that I really appreciated. Having to do sort of along the vein of the over-the-top action scenes, this is a series that I found myself laughing with a lot. And I don't know about you, but I find it difficult to read in literature things that I honestly find genuinely funny enough to actually laugh out loud. This is a series that will do that for you. I picked number 6 specifically. There is a particular scene involving a tennis match that is just hilarious. So if you are interested in taking a break from the typical epic fantasy and you just want something that will get you chuckling, I would recommend taking a break with Spy Family. Next up, and completely different, is The Hod King. This is book 4 from Josiah Bancroft's Books of Babel. No, it's book 3. Next up is Josiah Bancroft's book 3 of the Books of Babel, The Hod King. It is honestly amazing to me that this book or these books aren't more well known. It is an absolute gem of a read. The language, I think specifically, deserves mention. Josiah Bancroft is a poet, and you can tell it reading these books. Not because the prose sounds like poetry, but because it is very clear that the author cares very much about the words specifically that he chooses. The other strength I think that Josiah Bancroft had that I really enjoyed is his depth of character writing. These characters, introduced in book 1, slowly fermenting and deepening through book 2, are just fantastic. And by the time you get to book 3, they are in serious peril. And having, like, there was one day reading this book, I got to the end of the day and I realized all of a sudden that I hadn't eaten anything throughout the entire day. And that was because I was so anxious on behalf of these characters that I had literally lost my appetite. I don't know if that sounds like a good time or not, but what that does speak to, I think, is the depth of character writing that Josiah Bancroft is able to achieve, that he had that kind of an effect on me. Also in that same vein, there is a particular scene at the end of this book that I got to the end of, and instead of continuing on, I stopped. And I went back to the beginning of the scene, and I read it again. And I did this twice, because the scene is just so immensely satisfying. And that again speaks to the depth of character writing that Bancroft has been able to achieve by book 3 in this 4-book series. So the books basically follow Thomas Senlin. He's a school teacher, recently married, and he went honeymooning in the Tower of Babel, and in no short time lost his wife, and has been trying ever since then to find her again, and he is almost there. Very, very, very enjoyable books. I read all 4 through 2024 and was very, very glad that I did. Next up would be Eiichiro Oda's One Piece, specifically this volume set of 7, 8, and 9. The books follow Monkey D. Luffy in his quest to gather together a crew for his ship on his way to become king of the pirates and find the treasure One Piece. I was first introduced to this series via the live-action Netflix One Piece, and I really, really had a good time watching it. And I thought, if the manga is anything like this, I think I'm really going to enjoy it. The manga is everything that the live-action captured, and then some. It is fantastic. The action is way over the top, which I appreciate as far as a humor standpoint goes, but also the weaving in of these heartfelt moments in this series, I really, really appreciated. There's a particular scene at the end of Volume 9 where character Nami meets the end of her arc, and the volumes thus far have given her more context for her actions, more of a backstory, and when that moment finally comes at the end of 9 and how it is drawn specifically, it is just beautiful. It is just good stuff. And I thought, this is great. Other people need to be reading this too. So if, again, you want to break from traditional fantasy and you'd like something with over-the-top, sometimes zany humor with incredible action scenes and heartfelt moments, I would recommend giving One Piece a shot. It will not disappoint. Next up is Jingo. This is book 4 of the City Watch books from Terry Pratchett's Discworld series. The City Watch books basically follow the City Watch, the police force, within the city of Ankh-Morpork as they defend the town from various threats from book to book. And the threat in this particular book is war with a neighboring nation. And I really appreciated what the book has to say about war in general, specifically the philosophy of a soldier versus the philosophy of a cop. And what is a cop's role, and what is a cop supposed to do within the context of war? And Terry Pratchett's answer to that question, and the amount of humor that he is able to weave into it, I thought was really, really funny. And it's something that only he could have done. There's a particular scene at the end of this book where a character is able to see something in a sort of Dickensian way, what might have happened had he not taken certain actions at the beginning of the book. There are certain things that the tone armor of this series will just not allow to have happen. And so for Pratchett to find a way around that, and for him to show a character in the midst of the triumph of the story, the sort of chilling narrative of what might have happened had things gone a different way, I thought was really, really interesting from a writer point of view. He doesn't break that wall, he just scratches against it and lets that one character, and thus the reader, see something that never would have been possible in these books. And I thought that was really, really neat. And again, really chilling. Like, I had chills just reading that section. It was great. I would highly recommend these books. They're funny, the characters are deep, they're interesting, well worth the time that you would put into it. If you're interested in starting anywhere in the Discworld, Guards, that would be book 1 of the City Watch books, would be a great place to start. I feel like it would be very easy making these videos to get to the point where you're making it at the end of the year and to choose all of your picks from books that you had more recently read because they're the ones that happen to be in your mind. However, this next book, which is also my book of the year, was one that I finished in January of 2024, and it is far and away easily the best book that I've read. And that would be the fourth book of Daniel Abraham's Long Price Quartet, titled The Price of Spring. It's hard to describe exactly what these books are about because it's so big and it's so different from everything that you would normally read otherwise. The books follow these two characters, Ota and Mati, who you meet in book one when they are just children. They develop friendship, they develop antagonisms against each other as they grow, and as they grow, they take actions, and those actions have consequences that lead to countries warring with each other over power and over an ancient magical language that threatens the fate of their nation and the lives of everyone within. And if that sounds like a lot, it is a lot. This is a sprawling, lyrical, epic narrative that takes humanity and magic more seriously than any fantasy that I have ever read before. The magic system specifically, I thought was really unique, as it almost functions as a kind of character building device. If I were going to try to describe it without being too spoilery, I would say it's sort of like this. If you could capture some element of the world and take that element and trap it in human form so that it would do your bidding whenever you asked it. But then maybe that element didn't want to do your bidding. Maybe it wanted to be free, and the only way for it to be free was for it to destabilize you as a human being so that you would lose control over it by looking at your own character flaws, which it is fully aware of, and then using those flaws against you. If that's not grounds for perfect character development, I don't know what is. Also, and this may have more to do with my obsession with words in general, but it's one of the most interesting, no, I would say that it is the most interesting magic system that I have ever read in fantasy. If that sounds like something you'd be interested in as well, I would highly recommend taking these books up. They're not fast reads, you need to take your time with them, I would say, but it is worth every second that you put into it. These are fantastic books. Otherwise, that about wraps up my top 5 reads. Again, I'll have links to those in the description below if you would like to check any of them out. I'm not sure where Tori went to. I could have swore that she was in here when I walked in. But I hope you are having a great week. I hope you are reading 5-star reads, and we will see you in the next video.